First, a huge welcome to the new board. I want to thank you for the opportunity for me to introduce the Great Plains FHP to you. My name is Stephen Krentz, and I've served as a coordinator for this partnership since our beginnings in 2009. I want to begin by expressing that in my 30-plus years of working on natural resource issues, this initiative has been a highlight of my career. While the strategy of creating partners to accomplish work is not new, the development of regional partnerships under a broad-based national umbrella emphasizing protection and restoration of aquatic habitats is, in my opinion, a tremendous accomplishment. The diversity of participation that currently sits on the board and participates within the FHPs is an example of why this is so exciting. This initiative is trying to restore many of the aquatic species that are in severe declines or important to the angling public. And the FHP's creation allowed all of us working in the Great Plains to take pause and wonder, where can we make a difference? From my involvement with our partnership and watching what other regional FHPs are doing, it provides hope that we can reverse the current glide paths and actually continue to reconnect people to the waters and create advocacy into the future. Like many, I was attracted to the shoreline of my local creek. From the banks of Shota Creek, I saw the diversity of species relying on these waters. I saw the migration of fish out of the main stem Missouri and run miles upriver to spawn. I watched as the birds used it throughout the year, and I saw, more importantly, the landowners that relied on these same habitats for their cattle and crops. These were working lands serving multiple purposes. The historical northern Great Plains is a case of extremes for both moisture and temperature. What is even more amazing is the number of species that have evolved to thrive despite these extremes. What I'm going to cover is a brief description of the partnership and how we have developed a focused effort to strategically put conservation where it provides the greatest. Our mission has been focusing limited resources on priority watersheds across this large landscape and creating ways to work together and bring together partners who may not have historically found commonalities. Our Partners Council is comprised of a variety of participants, but mainly focused with those with management authority or a collaborative interest in the shared resource. We primarily focused on the river and stream habitats in the northern Great Plains as the one aspect that needed the most attention and was of critical importance to local communities. The northern Great Plains FHP spans across the entire Missouri River watershed. Most of the Red River watershed of the north end up in the northeast corner of the map, and a portion of the Arkansas River along the southern edge. While the FHP does encompass the main stem Missouri, we decided that those issues on the main stem were too large to tackle and were best left to other efforts that were ongoing and put our attention on the smaller streams and watersheds of those tributary waters. While the habitats and species may not have had the glamour of a blue ribbon trout stream, and many of the species aren't even angled, they are still important. In most cases, it's about creating awareness and finding balance. What we started with descriptive statistics created our first conversation about where do we focus. We have a large area that is comprised of a network of rivers and streams, numerous threats, and a long list of species that are in trouble. Of course, it bears reminding that the aquatic species list is experiencing some of the greatest declines we've ever seen. It's also critical to remember that these habitats are important to more than just fish, that much of our area is in the great migratory flyways of North America, with many connections of habitat between fish and birds, and mussels and cattle and land use. Some of our initial work of our partnership focused on how to become focused and prioritize. Our initial FHP-wide habitat assessment 11 years ago, conducted in collaboration with the other 5 Midwest FHPs, helped to identify priority restoration and protection areas. Those priority catchments for protection that were identified were those that had better quality habitat, and the restoration priority areas were those that had stressors potentially affecting species distribution. We roughly identified about 31% of the habitats were priority for protection, and about 20% were priority for restoration. We have continued to build on that assessment and refine that work to guide our on-the-ground work, incorporating the latest state wildlife action plans to create our current optimization map. This map focuses our discussions and directs conservation efforts for those watersheds of priority. In addition to the creation of these landscape scale assessments, which had never cohesively been done across the Great Plains, we have numerous on-the-ground activities. Since inception, our partnerships have been involved with over 61 projects that removed over around 37 barriers and reopened about 474 miles of upstream habitat. This also restored over 50 miles of riparian areas, creating functional habitats. We've also conducted workshops and guidance documents for various counties and states, and these activities have been highly supported by our Partnership Council and state representatives overall. We've spent about $1.6 million since our inception, with about a $17 million match. And this has had a significant economic benefit to local communities and the region. This should bring back some memories. If there's one positive that came out of the pandemic, it's the creation of dashboards for sharing information. We're in the process of finalizing a partnership summary dashboard to place on our website that highlights the accomplishments by species and location. While much of what we do is complex, a comment by Pat Rivers' son has stuck with me. Pat was a previous coordinator with the Midwest Glacial Lakes FHP, and I'll never forget the idea of his son about why of what we were trying to do. Now, the main objective is to improve habitats for aquatic species and especially for the public. Like a river, we need to have the patience and maintain a steady progress toward our goals. And do you have any questions?